Hello, today I am going to take up Java inheritance. Inheritance means uh, making a particular class and then deriving that class by another class so that data redundancy is removed. On the surface, interface inheritance is a code reuse issue. We can extend code that is already written in a manageable manner. And inheritance is more, it supports polymorphism at the language level. Take an existing object type, collection of fields and methods, and extend it. Create a special version of the code without rewriting any of the existing code or even explicitly calling it. End result is a more specific object type called the subclass, derived class, or the child class. The original code is called the superclass, parent class, base class. For an example, we can consider the example of a bank scenario in which suppose we have various employees like the manager, the accountant, the daily collector, the PN. So if there are many qualities that are common to all of them. So if we are going to make a different class for each of them without the use of inheritance, then we have all the common things to be repeated in each and every class. Like everybody will have a name, irrespective of him being a manager or some other employee like accountant or cashier. Everybody will have a name. He will have his age, date of birth, gender, and suppose mobile numbers and address. So in order, this data is redundant. It is existent in each and every class. So what can we do with the help of inheritance? We can make a class called person, and we will move all the commonalities of the different classes inside the function inside the person class, and then what we will do is we will derive the various employees through person. And what else we can do is suppose there are hourly and monthly and annually paid employees. So what we can do is we can make a class, a parent class called employee, and there should be, and there will be many derived classes like hourly wages or monthly or yearly. So in this way we are again going to utilize the same redundant data, and not we are not going to duplicate it elsewhere. Okay, like as you can see in this example, employee has name, email, phone number. A full-time employee also has salary, office benefits, and for example, a manager has company car, can change salaries, rates, contracts, offices, etc. Then there's contractor, hourly rate, contract duration. Okay, a manager is a special kind of full-time employee, which is a special kind of employee. So here we can see the whole hierarchy, and it is with the help of this hierarchy that we are not repeating the code again and again. Now, inheritance also deals with something known as polymorphism. The polymorphism means existence of existence in many forms. Okay, like for example, a room can behave like a classroom. It can also behave like an examination room, or it can also behave like a suppose staff room at some time. So the room is the same, but its functions are different. In the same manner, we can also say that if you want to create area of a square, rectangle, and other shapes like circle and triangle, then what we have to do is, it is obviously more clear for us if we make the method name as area and differentiate all the areas with the help of the values they are going to take, like the different data types and the different number of arguments. So whenever a method call is made, that method call is made on the basis of the method matching the number of on the type of arguments. Okay, so this is known as polymorphism. Polymorphism can be static or dynamic. Static polymorphism includes function overloading or method overloading, and the runtime polymorphism exhibited by overriding. Okay, so here the polymorph for we have taken polymorphism as extension to inheritance, like create code that deals with general object types without the need to know what specific type each object is. Now generate a list of employee names. All objects derived from the employee have a name field. Since employee has a name field, no need to treat managers differently from anyone else. What is method polymorphism? The real power comes with methods and behaviors. A better example, like shape objects types, use a drawing program. We want to be able to handle any kind of shape. Someone wants to code in the future. We want to be able to write code now that can deal with shape objects without knowing what they are. Like shapes, as you can see, we have color and layer. These are the fields. Then draw is a method inside the shapes class. Calculate area is its own calculates its own area. Like suppose a shape is a square. This calculate area will calculate the size of the or the area of the square. Then there is a serialize function that generates a string that can be saved and later used to regenerate the object. Now, what can be the different types of shapes? Rectangle can be a shape. In rectangle, each could be a kind of shape. Could be specialization of the shape class. That's a rectangle can be a type of shape. Triangle can be a type of shape. Circle can be a type of shape. Each knows how to draw itself and could write code to have all shapes draw themselves or save the whole collection to a file. That is, we can do anything we want to do regarding the various operations that can be performed on these shapes, which these shapes are rectangle, triangle, and circle. And this in turn these shapes are derived from the shapes class. Now, what is the class definition? In order to understand polymorphism inheritance, we must know how a class is defined. Class is defined with the help of a class keyword. After that, we place the name of the class, and then with the field declarations and the initialization code, that is the constructors. I've already dealt with these things in our earlier videos. And then there can be methods. Now, what is abstract class modifier? Abstract modifier means that the class can be used as a superclass only. That is, if we define a class to be abstract, that then we cannot have the class directly instantiating objects of its type. It can only be used as a parent class, but no objects can be directly generated from an abstract class. So abstract modifier means that a class can be used as a superclass only. No objects of this class can be created, can have attributes. Yes, abstract class can have attributes, even code, and all are inherited. Methods can be overridden and used in inheritance hierarchies. For example, when I was talking about the person class in the bank scenario, then that person class can be made an abstract class. Why? Because the person class directly does not need to be instantiated or any object of type person. We do not need any objects of type person directly, but we are just gathering the information that is common to all the objects, and then we are keeping it inside the person class. And when we are making the objects, that is the classes that objects have to be instantiated, then those classes are derived from the person class, but the person class directly has no use for instantiation. Okay. Now, what are various method modifiers? Private, protected, public are the method modifiers, and the protected means private to all but subclass. And what if none of these is specified? Well, in that case, it uses the default. Now, abstract also, the keyword abstract has no implementation given, must be supplied by the subclass. The class itself must also be declared abstract. What are final classes? The final classes or the methods cannot be changed by a subclass. No alternative implementation can be provided by a subclass. If there is a final method in a parent class, then the body cannot be changed. There can be no modification made to that class in the subclass. Interesting method modifiers Native is a method modifier which is written in some local C code, and synchronized was little later. Now, what is the difference between inheritance and composition? When one object type depends on another, the relationship could be is a or has a. Sometimes it's hard to define the relationship, but in general, you use composition, that is aggregation, when the relationship is has a. Okay, in case of is a, we have inheritance. In case of has a, we have aggregation, that is a type of composition. Now, what is composition? One class has instance variables that refer to objects of another. Sometimes we have a collection of objects the class just provides like a glue and establishes the relationship between objects. There is nothing special happening here as far as the compiler is concerned. Now, one object type is defined as being a special version of some other object type in case of inheritance. This is known as a specialization. Okay, in our case, the person class was an object type, or was a class, and the employee was a special version of that class. This is known as a specialization in inheritance. The more general class is called the base class, the super class, or the parent class. In our case, for the bank scenario, we had the person class, which is in our case is the base class or super class or parent class. Why? Because all the objects were getting derived from that class. And the more specific class is called the derived class, subclass, or child class. Like in our case, the employee was a derived class, and then there were different types of employees as well. So all the children of the employee class were also derived, are also said to be derived class, subclass, or child class. A derived class object is an object of the base class. It favors for the relationship is a but not has a. All fields and methods are inherited. Okay. The derived class object also has some stuff that the base class does not provide usually. For example, in our parent class, that is person, we had name, age, date of birth, date of joining, mobile number, address. These were all things that were repeated, and each and every class that was going to be the child class of this parent class was having these things. But in fact, it was having these attributes as well as if there are method, for example, calculate age or calculate age or calculate salary. This method was also repeated in the derived class. But the thing is that all the things that are repeated in the derived class from the parent class, the derived class can also have additional attributes or methods in its own class declaration or definition. And these things can be, suppose I have defined an object of type manager that is derived from person, but manager is having another function called control others. Now this control others is defined by the manager, and it is not going to be supplied from the parent, that is person class, because it is not having it. Okay, but the derived class is having its own add-ons. Okay, so there can be all the derived class object can also have the stuff that the base class does not provide usually. It depends upon the usability and the purpose, that why it should be needed. Okay, whatever new thing that has to be added as an add-on to the child class it is that stuff that the base class does not provide usually. Now, two kinds of inheritance, that is implementation and interface. The code that defines methods. Implementation means the code that defines methods, and interface are the method prototypes only. What is implementation inheritance? Derived class inherits the implementations of all methods from the base class. It can replace some with alternatives. New methods in derived class can access all non-private base class methods and fields and methods. Now accessing superclass methods from derived class. We can use super to access all non-private superclass methods. Suppose there is a derived class called B, that is being derived from the parent class called A. And if A is having a public member function or member method known as meth1, okay, so and the body is also having suppose a method called meth uh, meth1, okay, so in order to call the methods that is given by the parent, we use the super keyword. We can also get the public members from the parent object or defined by the parent class, and we can also have attributes and the same, and we can also have the methods, but only thing that we can use is the super keyword. The super keyword is used to access elements, public elements, that is public attributes and methods from the parent class. And if we want to suppose if we are having a class A, and that is and we are deriving an object through it called B, then the B's constructor can also call the parent, that is A's constructor, with the use of super keyword. In case of single inheritance, we can't extend more than one class. Single inheritance means that a parent class is having a single child class. That is, so suppose the parent class is A and the child class is B, then B is derived from A. This is a single inheritance. The derived class can't have more than one base class. Okay. Now, casting objects. An object of a derived class can be cast as an object of the base class. An object of a derived class can be cast as an object of the base class. This is very much powerful, and why? Because this is the concept that is used for dynamic method dispatch, or what we call overriding, or the runtime polymorphism. Okay, in runtime polymorphism, what we do is, suppose there is a class A that is parent and a B class that is derived from A, then uh, suppose B is having certain methods. Okay, suppose B is having a method meth1, and then we make an object of class A and initialize it with the object of B. Then uh, the method will be called, and this linking is resolved at runtime. Therefore, this is known as runtime polymorphism. If there are suppose more than one classes that are derived from the parent class, then the method of that object will be invoked at runtime, that is passed as initializing object to the parent class. When a method is called, the selection of which version of method is run is totally dynamic. Overridden methods are dynamic. This is the dynamic part of the polymorphism. Okay. Selection of overloaded method is done at compile time. There are some situations in which this can cause confusion. See, when we are dealing with overloading, that can be constructor overloading or method overloading. Operator overloading is not supported in Java. So we are talking about just overloading or constructor overloading, that is method overloading in case of Java. And this overloading is resolved always at compile time. That is, suppose that I discussed earlier about an example that suppose there is a class called shape and it is having area as its member method that is overloaded. So the call to the respective method in overloading is done at compile time. But when we use overriding, that is, we are making an object of a class, we are having few objects of a particular class, and at the time of initialization of the parent class, I pass any of the objects derived from it. Then the method will be, then this version of method that is run is totally dynamic. It will be designed at, it will be decided at the runtime. So this is the dynamic binding. It's also known as dynamic binding. All methods defined in the class object are available in every class. Why? Because object sits on the top of the hierarchy of all the data types. Each and every object that is derived in Java is derived from object. Okay. And due to this, any object of a particular class can be cast to a variable or object of type object. So what are interfaces? An interface is the definition of method prototypes and possibly some constraints, that is static final fields. Okay. An interface does not include the implementation of any methods. It just defines a set of methods that could be implemented. Interfaces are actually contracts. They just behave like contracts. Whenever a class implements an interface, it abides by the rule that each and every function declaration given inside the interface must have to be implemented in the uh, class that implements that interface. An interface is nothing. It contains many methods declarations, that is their signatures, that is what is the return type of the method and what are the arguments and argument types of that method. It can have more than one method. No, it's not. What happens is whenever we implement a particular interface, then through that interface, when it gets implemented in a particular class, then there is a contract between the class that is implementing the interface and the interface itself, that all the methods inside the interface that is declared have to be defined and also given the body of the methods which are just declared in the interface. That this has to be done. If all the methods are not defined in the body of the implemented class, then it will result into error. A class can implement an interface. This means that it provides implementations for all the methods in the interface. Java classes can implement any number of interfaces, that is multiple interface inheritance. So you can be asked a question that whether Java supports multiple inheritance or not. Then in cases of inheriting through classes, it does not support multiple inheritance. It only supports, as far as classes inheritance is concerned, it only supports uh, single inheritance and multi-level inheritance, but not multiple inheritance. You cannot have more than one parent class in case of Java. But in case of interfaces in Java, we can have more than one interface getting implemented by a particular class, and it can also, there can be more than one interfaces that can be inherited by another interface. Okay, so both in this case we can say that Java classes can implement any number of interfaces, that is multiple interface inheritance. So multiple inheritance supported in case of interfaces but not in case of classes. What is a package? A package is a collection of related classes and interfaces providing access, protection and namespace management. You can think of packages as folders, okay, where we keep related classes inside it, and a package can in turn also contain another package, and that package can also contain another package. That is, a whole hierarchy of packages can be there, but it can also contain classes. Okay, to make classes, if what's the main purpose of package? To make classes easier to find and to use and to avoid naming conflicts. Suppose you didn't had the feature of packages in Java, then what would have been happen is that suppose you make a particular class called calculator. So you cannot make another class of name calculator because it is residing in the same place, and the classes cannot contain the same name at the same level of folder hierarchy. So what we can do is we use packages, and in case of packages, what happened is, suppose there is a package called suppose normal user, and there's another package called scientific user. So in case of normal user package, I am having a calculator class, and in the scientific user, I am again having a calculator class without any introduction of ambiguity. So to avoid naming conflicts and to control access. Why do we use package? Programmers can easily determine that these classes and interfaces are related. Okay, a package, suppose java.util contains all the classes that are related to each other, like utility classes, and suppose java.io package contains all the packages that are related to each other, and they have a common functionality for input and output. Okay, So programmers know where to find classes and interfaces that provide graphics related functions. It's just a case you can have a huge amount of packages having different segregations and combinations of the functionality of the various classes. The names of classes won't conflict with class names in other packages because the package creates a new namespace, allows classes within the package to have unrestricted access to one another, yet still restrict access for classes outside the package. Now, this is always a good practice to put our classes and interfaces in two packages. Whenever we program, we must use packages and keep our related classes inside a particular package. Okay, it is no need to create packages, they come to existence as soon as they are declared. We don't have to previously define a particular package, we just have to write the statement of the package and the package name, the keyword package and the package name, and then semicolon, and then we can write down our class definition, and it will automatically place inside a folder called with the name with which you have defined a package. The first line of your source file is package. You have to write the package statement at the first line of your code, because if any line precedes the declaration or definition of the package, it will result into some problem. Okay. For example, if I am making a class called car, as in this case, I want to keep this class car in a package car. And what will we do? We'll just place the statement package cars and then suffix with a semicolon, and then we will declare the class, and we will give the whole attributes and methods inside that class. Every class must belong to one package. In a package, it is a practice that there can be only one class. Okay. In a package, you are going to design only one class. Only one package statement is allowed per source file. In any source file that you are making in Java, there can be only one package statement, and that is also very logical because you can have one package for one class. Okay. Now, if package statement is omitted, the class belongs to a special default package, the only package in Java that has no name. If you are omitting and you are not writing the package statement, that you are not making the package of your source code, then what will happen is a default package will be assigned to your code and it will be moved there, but it is not having any name. So the Java for the default package has no name. What are sub packages? Inside packages we can have other packages according to our comfortability, like what we want to exactly design. Suppose in our case we had Java, suppose geometry as a package. Inside geometry we have a sub package like shapes. Inside it I am having various attributes and methods for calculating area. Okay. Sub packages must always be prefixed with names of all enclosing packages. Okay. So if I want to make a package, or I want to put inside the sub package our code, my code, then what will I do? I will first of all in the package statement I will write package and then the whole hierarchy of the package. In our case, suppose package geometry dot shapes, and then we will start writing our code. Package hierarchy does not have a single top level all encompassing root package. Instead, we deal with a collection of top level packages. Now here is the whole hierarchy or the tree structure shown, that is the partial package tree of Java. First of all, at the top sits the Java, which is having lang, AWT, IO and util. Inside Java, these are packages. Okay, Java is a package, lang, AWT, IO and util are sub packages, and here string and math are class, and reflect is a sub package. Okay. And how will I, I would have been writing over my classes constructor and providing a package, then what should I have been written? I would have written package java.lang.reflect, and after that I must have written the code for constructor and method classes. Now, how are packages and classes related? Packages subdivide namespace of Java classes. Machines.vehicles.cars.fastcar mycar. What is exactly this? This is machines package. Inside it a sub package vehicles. Then there is a sub package cars, and there is then a class called fastCar that is having an object myCar is equal to new machine.vehicles.cars.fastCar, and we are providing a constructor and we are making a an object myCar of the class fastCar. Okay, then package names should be made as unique as possible to prevent name clashes, and this is self-understandable. Then class name must be fully qualified with their package name. Okay, then class name immediately followed by the class keyword, for example car. Class belongs to the same package as the class being currently defined. Class is explicitly specified in one of the important import statements. Now you don't need to write again and again this whole thing. Suppose you are making an object of type fast car, then you don't need to write this thing again and again. You just have to import packages with the help of import statement, and you will just write import machines.vehicles.cars, and after that and dot star or dot fast car. This will include this class for you, and it will be things will get easier for it. Then class belongs to java.lang package. All java.lang classes are implicitly imported. Now what is this import statement? The import statement, as you can see, to avoid typing fully qualified names, use import statements sandwiched between the package statement and class definition. For example, package grand.prix. Okay, I want to include java.lang package for me. Then what will I do? I will write import java.lang.star. This is implicitly specified. Import java.util.random. What will this be doing? This will include all the classes. This dot star will include all the classes in java.lang, and this random will include the random class, and so on. Now store class files. How should we store class files? Class files must be stored in a directory structure that mirrors package hierarchy. For example, both Java and class files for fastCar class from the machines.vehicle.cars package can be stored in the following directory. As you can see, like C drive A and B, and then it is having classes, machines, vehicles, and cars. So this is the package structure. Now what is a class path? Class path classes, combined classes can be stored in different locations in the file systems. Okay. Actually, what Java does, it first of all compiles the code, and then in the and what how does Java compile the code? By the usage of the JAVAC, Java C or JAVAC compiler. This JAVAC compiler takes the name of your class and it compiles it, and it results into a dot class file. Okay. Now this dot class file is that file that is that has the bytecode data, and it is expected by the interpreter or the Java virtual machine, and then it is converted to the native application, a native machine code. Okay, so this class file, that is the bytecode file, which is the result of the compilation through Java C. This class file must be specified a path in order for the interpreter to look where this file is present. So this can be done with the help of class path environment variable, and combined classes can be stored in different locations in the file systems. And how to locate these files? It is setting a class path, which is a set of directories where class files should be searched. For example, you want to locate this file inside suppose in C drive, in suppose my class folder, then you have to specify the C drive my class folder in the class path location. So what will happen is, and you can have many places that can be these paths can be separated by semicolons. This will help the Java interpreter to search for where the class files are located. Now how can you set the class path? These are the straightforward commands that you can use. You can also, if you are using Windows, then you can do this through the control panel, and you can see these statements. You can also do command line. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this video.